like maps? How about a detailed hand-drawn map that reflects your favorite people, places, and things? Visit Cartograph Me on Instagram or Facebook and see the possibilities and the works of artist Philip Bailey. Remember, Cartograph Me, putting you on the map. Bon mois de la fierté, ce soir on parlait de film, un couture dans le cœur, entrons-y.
Laisse-moi venir chez toi.
Anne, c'est terminé. J'ai le cœur sec de toi.
Vous savez, quand on s'oublie avec l'autre, les autres, qu'on sait plus où on est, une forme d'amour en quelque sorte. Puissant, vorace, sans limite. Ça vous est jamais arrivé?
Votre acteur a été poignardé, une mort particulièrement violente.
Carl venait de tourner dans un de mes films.
Quel genre de film exactement?
Oh, arrêtez votre charme. Faites pas le coup des types qui sont pas renseignés. T'es un super beau mec, tu sais.
Vous faites quoi?
Je suis productrice de films érotiques. La seule chose, c'est que parfois on manque de filles. Alors on fait ça entre mecs. Tu appelles moi demain matin?
Détective Rachid, j'écoute.
Je crois que je vais changer le titre du film. Le tueur homo. Vous en dites quoi?
Je me trompe ou tout ça te fait ni chaud ni froid?
Alors comme ça, vous n'avez aucune piste? Vous attendez que tous mes acteurs crèvent pour vous mettre au boulot?
Personne veut tourner avec nous, ils sont tous terrifiés.
Il y a bien un indice. Près des 2 premiers cadavres, on a retrouvé des plumes du même oiseau.
Tu devrais être plus attentive à tes rêves. Ils sont là pour t'aider.
C'est cet amour qui est trop pour moi. Ça me rend dingue, tu comprends?
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
It's Exilia.
And this is Amy Winehouse's Blake Tattoo Mike.
And it is July 4th, the blessed year of 2021.
Blessed, more like cursed.
A little late on our last Pride episode, a little scheduling conflicts. So we'll say up front, if you were expecting Steven on, unfortunately, he couldn't make it. So he said, go forth and do the Lord's work.
Yes, we'll have him back for another one.
Yeah, we are definitely going to work having him on something else. He just got busy. I know they're busy over there doing their thing, so we will have him back. So, I do have a question for you guys, as always. In the spirit of this film and my amazing French you guys got to hear at the beginning there, I want you guys to suggest some great foreign cinema that you guys enjoy. It could be television, it could be movies, let's just say media in general.
I'm just gonna...
Maybe even music, I don't know.
I'm just gonna go out there and say that my experience with, like, media outside of North America is quite limited, but I do listen to, well, actually, one of my favorite groups, Agar Agars from Paris.
There you go.
And I also do listen to a French band. Oh yeah, it's called Grand Blanc.
So Exilia comes through with the music, but no love for the foreign film.
I mean, I've seen Parasite, I've seen House, and that's literally probably it. Ichi the Killer.
You don't recommend any of those?
Yeah, they're great. But I feel like I've talked about them before.
Oh, okay. Alright. How about you, Mike?
Honestly, this is the most fucking loaded question that you've ever lobbed at us, because I don't even know where to start. I have, because of watching late night TV when I was very young, because I would even as a youngster I had insomnia, and at that point it was probably more of I just wanted to stay up all night watching TV in my bedroom when I was supposed to be asleep. So I would watch all sorts of like foreign and art films and stuff like late at night, just, you know, essentially because I wanted to see nudity. But I ended up like really getting into it. So I, like my whole life, I have a really extensive love of, honestly, like foreign music, film, television, like books, like you name it. I mean, some of my favorite movies are like the Dario Argento's films, which this is obviously inspired by. So that's, you know, like Italian horror. You know, we've got our, like, Bergman was one of my favorites back in the day, like when I first started watching, like, you know, quote, film. You know, so it's like the depressing Swedish movies. I mean, you know, all like European cinema pretty much is like a huge boner for me. You know, like French music, actually, I love French cinema. Actually, one of the stars of this movie was in a movie that I quite enjoy by a director who is actually Canadian, but he's French-Canadian, so, like, all of his movies are... Actually, no, not all of them. The first few were shot in French. One of them that Vanessa Paradis is in is called Café de Fleur, and it's spectacular, and it, like, made me cry multiple times. I loved it. It was just a brilliant film. But yeah, I just like literally like Asian cinema, like Wang Kar-wai's films are like mind-blowing. It's like something that I'm very, very heavily into. I find that they usually have better aesthetics than North American cinema, but that could just be when I was a youngster, I started becoming like, you know, a little bit of a snob. I was like, oh look, I'm like a teenage me was like, oh, I'm so much better because I watch like movies with subtitles. So, you know, I grew out of that, but I still, you know, it's like in my DNA now.
I do have one non-English book on my bookshelf.
Okay.
Decline the Prince, which is The Little Prince in German.
You're so astute.
I mean, it's a children's book, but I think I had said on here before that I like really would like to expand into watching more like horror movies that are not North American based, but it's something I really have to like watch and pay attention to because of the subtitles. And for the longest time, I didn't have glasses and like basically couldn't see my own face. So to like sit there and read subtitles was just not a thing. I will expand further as time goes on.
I think it's always a good thing to want to expand. And
yeah, my friend and coworker Amy actually told me about 2 horror films. One was from Iran, I believe, and the other one was from a country in Africa, and I don't remember which one.
One of them A Girl Walks Alone at Night?
Nope, I don't think so.
I still haven't seen that yet, but I really want to. Just because it's always on, like, top horror movie lists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Rue Morgue a couple of months ago did one about horror movies coming out of the Middle East, and there were a couple there that I wanted to watch as well. That would be my goal. Yeah. What about you, Rowan?
Because I wrote the question down, I had a little time to think about it. I think if I was going to recommend some that I enjoyed, and I know Mike's going to agree with me, High Tension.
Yeah.
Haute Tension.
Always, that one's always good. Exili brought up, like, Ichi the Killer and House, and I love all those ones. There's one, I I want to say it's Korean. I don't think it's Japanese. And I think it's called Honeymoon. I believe they remade it pretty much like a year after it came out. They did like an American remake, of course, that wasn't anywhere near as good. But I really enjoyed that. Probably one of my all-time favorites, because I am a big fan of like kind of the, French New Wave, is Martyrs.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Martyrs to death. And the only other one I could really think about, and it's another one that I was really trying to remember the name, is Spanish, and I think it's called Intruders, and it's like a very kind of in that vein of French New Wave, so it's like very gritty, realistic home intruder movie that unsettled me to the core.
Yeah, they're usually pretty extreme, eh?
Yeah, it's interesting the differences that culturally in especially French cinema compared to North American cinema. We're plebs over here. So, yeah, let's get into the film. So this was my pick for Pride Month. If you, for some reason, didn't read the title of the podcast you clicked and all you heard was the French, you're like, what the hell did that guy say? Because he can definitely not speak French.
Mm-hmm.
The film is Knife+Heart from 2018. And let me hit you with the Letterboxd bio. It's quick and simple. In the summer of 1979, gay porn producer Anne sets out to film her most ambitious film yet, but her actors are picked off one by one by a mysterious killer. So the film is directed by Yan Gonzalez, and this is pretty much his first like bigger film. He's done a lot of shorts and stuff. And the only real thing I'd say claim the fame is that his brother Anthony Gonzalez is one of the members of the group M83.
Okay, so that's why the music's done.
By M83.
By M83, yeah.
So, yeah, that's really all I had to say about the director and everything. Yeah, do we want to talk about who else is in it quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I did look, because actually one of the main things that I was trying to see was if, like, the characters who were in the movie as trans were actually trans. But quite honestly, besides Vanessa Paradis, like, I couldn't really find a lot of information on the other people, because they had done like this movie and like maybe another movie in France, like so they didn't have a huge presence on IMDb or anything like that, although I did find some of their Instagrams. But so Vanessa Paradis, I mean, she has kids with Johnny Depp. They were together for quite a long time, actually. She was also used to date Lenny Kravitz, fun fact. Yeah, she has a total like Debbie Harry vibe in this movie, which I like.
Yeah, it's like very Debbie in the 70s in New York, yeah.
Another, I guess when I'll just mention about the trans actors, because there were a couple I had looked up specifically and I could only find information on one, but Simon Thibault was also in the short that this director did that we watched on the thing.
Yeah, so I guess, the quick explanation is, so I had the Blu-ray of this. I bought it when it came out, and on the Blu-ray, they have a short that Yan Gonzalez did called Les Îles, so it's called Islands in English. I wouldn't say he reuses, it was made before this, but there is some of the same actors in it as Knife+Heart.
Yeah. So Simon, like we would say Simon, but I think it's like more like Simon Thibault plays Dominique. In real life, they identify as a queer, trans, non-binary woman. And then another one I looked up, I can't remember their other name, but Martin is like one of the names they go by. And the actor, I found them on social media, but I think they're queer, but I don't think they're trans. So, I mean, that's as far as I could get with my research of the actors.
Yeah.
And I mean, we should just say, obviously, that Vanessa Paradis is a fucking legend. Like, we cannot gloss over the fact that she may have been, you know, with Johnny Depp. I don't think they were actually married for like 14 years or whatever. But like, fucking like French icon, like acts, models, sings. Her music is actually excellent. She just does everything. She's just like a legend, and like, we worship her. She's the queen of everything. I just want to throw that out there. I know I say that about everybody, but like, she, you know, really is like an icon and in, you know, the French pop culture world, I guess.
I do want to talk about the actress a little more, but we can do that a little bit later on. What we definitely need to start off with is Exilia's time to shine, the Bechdel test.
Oh, great.
Do you want to explain it?
So basically, the Bechdel test measures, like, how multidimensional or non-multidimensional women are portrayed as in visual media. So it's like, are there two women speaking to each other about something that's not a man? Are they named? And is there intersectionality? That's just an added one. This actually made me rethink the usefulness of the Bechdel test in a lot of ways. Yes, it completely passes, and I don't think there's a straight guy in the whole movie, which is really refreshing, actually.
Yeah.
Because it totally, like, decentralizes the one, like, person that is always in the center of a movie.
Yeah.
But not only does it make you think about the women being multidimensional, but it also makes you think of the men being more multidimensional as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you're just really expanding the Bechdel test even further.
You
need
the
your
Bechdel
own test.
Test is, I think, really like a good basic measure, but I think it's too simplistic.
Yeah, I think at this point it's more of a springboard to begin that sort of like dialogue and
yes.
thinking about the representation and stuff more than anything.
We need a new Exilia test.
Yeah. I do want to point out too that there are like several specifically Black queer folks in this movie, which was nice.
So before we get too heavy into it, I just want to talk about our experiences with this film. Is it our first time seeing it? All that good kind of stuff. We'll start with you, Mike.
Well, when we chose to do this, and I, you know, had to watch it obviously for the viewing, that was, and I say this like dead serious, tragically my first time watching it, and it actually made me feel awful because it had been on my radar since it came out. But it was one of those movies, and I'm a very strange person. Just because I really want to watch something like a show or a movie, or if I really want to read a book, sometimes if it's something that I know I'm really going to enjoy, or that I'm really, really, really looking forward to, I might set it aside for 3 or 4 years and not touch it because I want to like have a moment with it and make sure that like the moment is right and like savor it. And so that kind of happened to me with this movie, and part of the problem, though, was when it first came out, unless you ordered the Blu-ray, you know, and it was actually not that easy to find, you know, there was really no way to watch it. Like, it was only recently that Shudder started streaming it, I think. So that would have been really, like, the kind of most widespread way to see it. So I hadn't watched it before this, but I had been listening to the soundtrack for the last several years. So it was funny that I was, like, familiar with the tone of the movie insofar as like I got the score and the songs on repeat for years before I'd ever actually watched the film. But this was my first time watching it, and I feel awful about it because I should have gone out of my way to see it before now and not put it off. But I put it off because I really wanted to see it and I knew I was going to like it. So that's my experience with it.
How about yourself, Exilia?
Yeah, this was the first time I've seen it. Same as Mike, like, I had wanted to see it before it came out, but it was not really that accessible. And then finally, Rowan bought the Blu-ray, and I knew we were gonna end up reviewing it, so I just waited.
Yeah, and obviously, You know, I don't usually watch anything without Exilia, so I hadn't seen it before. I bought this the week it came out. We were living in Toronto, which is probably really the only way I bought it, because I was in such a big city center, and the place I would buy Blu-rays, shout out Bay Street Video, they carry like hundreds of like foreign and indie titles and stuff. So they had a whole bunch of copies on their shelves of this when they came out, and I remember seeing the trailer with Exilia and being like, holy shit, this looks, you know, super, something I'd be into, like the color palette, everything.
It ticks all of the row boxes.
So I did buy it, and cool enough, we haven't done anything with it yet, but when I didn't realize till I opened it to watch it to review this that it came with a poster.
Oh.
So that's exciting. But yeah, also my first time. Let's dig into this tasty morsel. You know where we're gonna start. Our favorite scene of the film, or kill, whatever is your favorite of the film. And we'll start with you, Exilia.
So, I have written here, favorite scene / kill, because I was considering it prior, because I know I always forget that we do this. And I just literally wrote that there were many beautiful shots. There's one that, like, in terms of scenes, there's one that, like, specifically stands out in my mind. And it's when... Now, I really want to find out what their other name is, but it's when Martin is, like, in the middle of the woods after that picnic and spinning around, and you see the blurriness, and then you see, like, somebody move closer and closer every time they, like, spin around on that spot. And there were a lot of scenes that were just, like, quite beautifully shot, actually. So anyways, yeah, so Martin then is credited as, I can't pronounce the name, but it's Messia, I think. But anyways, yeah, so I loved that scene. And then my favorite kill was probably at the beginning when Carl is murdered, because I didn't really know what to expect. And then this, like, guy with a mask shows up and whips out his dick that's actually a dildo with a knife at the end, and kills Carl. And that was my favorite kill.
Probably the first film that uses a dildo knife. I can't think of any others.
Not the first to use a dildo as a kill, but definitely a dildo with a blade inside it.
Yes.
My favorite dildo kill in horror cinema is still Slumber Party Massacre 3, the vibrator in the bathtub. But anyway, we won't go there. It's not exactly on the same level as this.
How about you, Mike? Your favorite scene or kill, or both?
Well, honestly, it was really, really hard for me. I was thinking about it, like, right after I finished watching it, because, of course, you know, it's something that, you know, we always touch on. And I had a hard time narrowing it down because I was just a bit overwhelmed. And then as a few days passed since I had watched it, I kept thinking about it, and it's actually difficult, but there are several scenes that I kept thinking about it and that stuck out in my memory. And one of them actually was, of course, that wonderful scene that X just spoke about in the woods. But honestly, I think my favorite scene of the movie, which is weird because it was the one that had the least dread or horror in it, was the very final scene with the movie that's, like, just shot all in white, and they're all, you know, it's very, like, sensual instead of being, like, gritty and, like, you know, porny like her usual work. And you know, the one right at the very end, like right before the credits roll,
yeah,
where it's like an orgy, but like it's just so much more tasteful than the other movies that they've shot, and the soundtrack kind of explodes in this typical M83 fashion, which is very epic and lush and gorgeous and, like, cranked up to, like, 15. And I just thought it was such a beautiful scene, and, like, I kept thinking about it, and I was like, it was a really nice way to end the movie, because, you know, there were moments in the movie, obviously, where being a, like, yellow throwback slasher film were very intense, and I don't know, you could call it, like, depraved or lurid even, but this was, like, a nice break from that, and it was just as stylized as the more lurid parts of the movie, but in a more soft focus kind of way. And I just thought it was a really nice way to end the movie.
Yeah.
You know, I kept thinking about it. It was like very sensual, and you know, it was just like a hot scene. The way it was shot was sexy, and like the music was really, you know, amazing. And I kept thinking about it. So that's what I got.
I was gonna say, I think we really have like a 3-way tie here, because my first choice was also the kill in the woods with the spinning and like the storm coming randomly there, like to get that character into the woods.
Yeah, it was very like magical realism almost.
Yeah, and that's why I really liked it, because it really made me think about like other like Jawlos and just other films like that really give that whimsical, mystical, nonsensical almost things happening, and you're just kind of like, what's going on? And then I mean, for probably in terms of kind of like, I don't know, the iconography of it, I enjoyed, I can't think of his name, the second guy that gets killed, like in the car after he does the heroin.
Oh yeah.
And I think if only because when I saw it in my mind, I kind of chuckled because I thought about brain damage, and I was like, I wonder if they're just like secretly big fans of brain damage.
It's so funny. I actually thought the same thing. Like, it wasn't anything specific about it, but there was a real brain damage vibe to that moment in that film.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I can just like name off stuff because there were so many scenes. And maybe not for the brutality, but I really liked the end kill of our antagonist. I just thought it was just an interesting way to end it and kind of give agency to all these other people that he took it away.
Yeah, but I feel like by the end I was feeling bad for him.
Yeah,
they definitely try to create a sense of like empathy.
Yeah, which is very out of step with this type of movie's usual. Like they'll psychologize the killer, but it's only in a sort of a like expository way, instead of like they genuinely did make you feel empathy with this person by the time you actually figured out, who it was and what the story was and stuff.
Yeah, I was going through because you only see the mask and then you see like curly hair. And so when they introduced the like Non's character, I was like, oh, maybe he's the killer because like he had the same kind of build and same kind of hair and stuff. And then they kept saying, oh, he looks so much like Fuedo. And like they brought that up numerous times. It's like maybe this like Fuedo person's the character or like the killer.
Yeah.
And then like obviously once you go and find out the story of Guy, you're like, okay, that's the killer. Like
yeah, but
it's
but
like
that's
like near towards like the end or 2/3 into the movie.
Well, and I was gonna say, like, I really like when you talk about how later on we get like the story of Guy, and I just love all the inspiration from all of these like older Jawlos, just because I love that we go from this slasher to her taking the trip out to the countryside and like going to see the gravestone, and we have the mother that is like talking to herself and stuff, but it just reminds me all of like the genre mashing that we get with like an Argento or anyone else, where it then almost becomes like this ghost story for this brief amount of time, and you kind of think, like, I thought when I was watching it was gonna take that turn, because I'm like, oh, like it's gonna be this ghost of this guy, and like I really didn't know what to expect.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's got that like ghost story slasher, like almost a detective film, the love story, and it's got this like surrealist, like, is it something supernatural? Because you've got the the bird, and it's like, is this a dream? You know, and it does like really mash up all these like kind of genre conventions into the one film.
The bird part too, I thought was interesting because when I first saw it, I was like, I mean, I lived somewhere with a lot of crows, so I was like, oh yeah, it's a crow. Like, that's interesting. Plus, like, a lot of movies tend to use crows, but then when they were talking about like Kalad, where Guy was from, and the guy Pierre with the bird hands was like talking about Kalad grackle, which is like this certain type of bird, and I was like, I wonder if those birds actually exist. Now, I don't think they're blind or anything like that, and I don't think there's actually like a Kalad grackle, but I looked it up, and grackles are actually real, and that's what they look like.
Okay, I was just like, it kind of reminds me of a raven, which,
you
know, is very much a like loaded artistic like symbol anyway, so
yeah, that's the thing, like a crow, a raven. Like, I'm glad that they went with something different.
They totally like they took that like sort of classic motif and just twisted it a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
I'm smiling because Auxiliary's like talking about the guy with the bird hands. I had briefly just totally forgotten about that, but then it made me smile because, like I said, I just love how many like twists and turns and inspirations from like not just horror movies but like fantasy.
It really is like magical realism though, because it was never really like addressed.
It's just there.
He just had bird hands.
Yeah, and the shift in and out of like dream states and reality, there's so much, like, I really do feel like I'm glad that you went back to me mentioning magical realism, because I think that it is like such an underrated element of this movie that, like, you know, it gives it that weird edge. Like, it kind of elevates it above your kind of typical like giallo slasher fare, and it gives it that like, it almost like, because those types of movies do, especially like the, you know, like Argento movies and stuff, obviously they use a lot of like surrealism and like dream imagery, but this really just played with it so much more, and I felt myself like slipping in and out, but I just accepted it because it was just so well used that, you know, like I completely suspended my disbelief.
and how like Anne was basically having like dreams of what happened between Guy and, I don't know how to pronounce his name, something like that.
Yeah.
Also, I was really confused because Guy was the blonde-haired guy, and his lover was actually the guy with the curls, but the killer has the curls. I was really that was the only part I
thought it was a mask and a wig.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Like, I thought it was kind of almost like a Michael Myers thing, you know, like,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And in terms of magical realism, like, this is probably a stretch, but like Yang Gonzalez to me is like kind of like a Spanish name.
Yeah.
And isn't magical realism like very popular in Spain?
It is, and like
if you think about like Gabriel Marquez.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gabriel. It's in a lot of like the kind of like Latin literary traditions from all over the world. Right. Yeah, like South America and
and I know like the director's from France, but like still, I mean, you can come from other places as well.
Yeah,
I did want, like I said, I did want to touch back on something we talked about a little earlier and bring it back so we could actually have a full out conversation about it, was just the cast in general and what you were talking about with like lots of like trans, non-binary, like lesbian,
like
gay,
queer, black folks.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely, to me, I looked back after I finished watching because I was just kind of reflecting on all our other picks that we've done for Pride Month, and I thought it was interesting because I think this is probably like one of the most like queer films that we've ever watched.
It is like most definitely unapologetically queer.
Yeah, even the color palette of it, it's like what do we call it, bisexual lighting, like all of the like purples and like magenta and stuff in it.
The lighting was amazing, but I just thought it was very interesting, and I thought it was interesting especially as I watched it, and you know, I think all of our experiences were probably a little different, like the three of us when watching. Like, I think about watching it as like a white man that identifies as straight. Like, I loved it, but it was interesting because I knew like there's like this hesitancy of processing with it where like these are characters I don't normally see at the forefront of stories.
I mean,
and like it was refreshing, and I was like, this is really awesome. And it was kind of sad how I was like, oh, this is like a really cool take on this stuff where like, really, you could have any story and have these characters at the forefront.
I mean, even as a woman, I felt that way. I was like, this is really provocative. And it's interesting because if it had been like, you know, a man and a woman, it like wouldn't have been provocative.
And like she could have just been making straight porn.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like it's just,
and this was just like really like erotic, really like sensual.
Yeah, like let's talk about at some point, you know, the like scenes that she directs and stuff. Like,
yeah, like
they're gorgeous, and again, like you said, they're very erotic, and even though it's supposed to be like cheap, you know, D-grade porn in the late 70s, it's beautiful. Like, it's absolutely beautiful.
Giving off those, what is it, Blue Nuit or whatever vibes.
Yeah, well, she calls herself, you know, she says to the cops, you know, don't be coy, I make blue movies, you know, because that's, of course, obviously a euphemism for pornography, but, like, you know, it's funny that, yeah, it is, it's very blue, it's...
it just was interesting to me as, like, an own reflection of my place and culture in the world, to be like, wow, that's really risque. Mm-hmm. That's really, this movie would be quite controversial in 2021, right?
Yeah.
To show that, like, same-sex relationships or even just, like, sexuality is still controversial.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking, like, not just our old Pride picks, but, like, just kind of LGBTQ things over the last couple years I've watched, like, in popular culture and mainstream. Like, it was very interesting to watch something like this, like we said, that's like unapologetically queer, when we're presented with a lot of mainstream stuff that markets itself as unapologetically queer,
but it's not.
But it's
for the like straight gays, basically.
Yes, yeah. GAZE again, as we always have to to spell it. It's for the straight gays, the eyes of the straights. We're not talking about that dichotomy of, you know, straight gay people.
I think that could be too the fact that so much of that we watch is North American, so it is made palatable for like a straight audience.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well, everything is like workshopped and committed until the soul is sucked out of it. All of the rough edges, all the sharpness is just grated right off of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because, like, there's so many twists to this, to the way that this story is told, that definitely highlight what you're saying. Like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, so again, like I just said, that they could have been making straight porn, and the plot would not have been, you know, the overarching of it. They could have, you know, some of it would have changed, but, like, they could have made a slasher movie with almost the same plot with that, like, straight porn element. And then you look at it and you go, they could have had a dude producing it and had the same, you know, and they didn't. They had a woman. And then not only was it a woman producing it, but, you know, her lover was also a woman. And there's just so many, like, twists to it that, and, you know, like I said, where are all the straight characters? Like, there's an area one to be found. The one sort of main pseudo straight person, she plucks him out of, you know, the most stereotypical, like, blue collar construction, like, shoveling dirt on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But, like, puts him down, and, you know, he's fucking dudes. And he's there. He's in that milieu and fits right in, and, you know, is doing the gay porn and part of that world. So it's like that sort of, even that moment of him, you know, being like the, you know, straight character disappears after, you know, she recruits him.
Yeah. And that's the thing about Anne. Like, she was very much, I think, like, her character was very what you'd expect from, like, a man, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She was, like, ruthless. She would do whatever she could to get the attention.
She was
of
like a
police.
salesperson. She's pitching all the time, pitching the cops, pitching that actor.
She exploited Carl's death to make a movie in order to try to get the attention of her ex-partner.
Yeah.
Like, she was like a boss. Like, you know, I'm not saying women can't be bosses, you know what I'm saying? But she, like, took on a more, like, traditionally in North American society, like, masculine roles.
And again, because you have to look at it, they very explicitly set this in 1979.
Right. This would be,
so
like...
this is 40 years ago, yeah.
This would be, like... If this had happened, really, back then, like, that would have been explosive. All of it.
Yeah, so again, and that's and another twist to it. Is that, you know, they didn't set it in 2010 or 15 or something. Like, they very specifically added that element of she's working in what is 100% absolutely, you know, a straight male dominated society and industry.
And even the part where she, like, sexually assaults her ex-partner.
Yeah.
That's, like, something that's still, like, I work in the field that deals with, like, sexual assault and stuff, and even it's still somewhat controversial. It's becoming less so, but the idea that there's, like, that happens in same-sex relationships, particularly for women, is still something that people are, like, trying to wrap their head around. So, yeah, she's an interesting... I hate her, but she's a really interesting character.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much to unpack with her.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why, like, I can't stop thinking about it. Because, like, and, you know, and it's just so interesting because you did say that, you know, it's like, not only is it, like, the element of, you know, there's no discourse really, like, culturally about like abuse and stuff within same-sex relationships, and then there's sort of even less as a subset of that as abuse instigated by a woman.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. It's definitely, like, marginalized.
Yeah, it's like the margins of the margins.
Yeah, exactly.
I did love while I was watching it. I like to think about the kind of this, you know, may not have been an influence for Jan Gonzalez, but I hoped Mike, as he watched it, really thought, man, you know what all these dreams remind me of? Laura Mars.
Oh, of course. It's funny that you bring that up, because when I was first watching it, and I was sort of thinking to myself, is this going to be like a traditional mystery? Are they going to have whodunits? Are they going to, you know, kind of like give you some red herrings? Are you going to have to try to figure out, is there going to be detective work? Are you going to figure out who the killer is? And then when she started, you know, having, and again, it was like films within films that had dreams in them within dreams, you know what I mean? And there was all these, like, layers to it. And I really did, like, especially whenever the birds came, that's what I thought of. I was like, it's the same thing. It's like Laura Mars, there's that element of magical realism to that movie, and that, like, you know, it's never explained. It's just sort of thrown in there, and it's something that you kind of have to suspend your disbelief on, and the same thing happens in this movie, and I thought that was brilliant. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I thought it was a really cool throwback to, and I mean, that would have been around the same time. Like, I'm trying to remember the year of Laura Mars. It might have been 79 or 80?
Yeah. It was definitely in the 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s. I actually felt the same way when I was watching this. It had definitely the same vibe.
Just,
you know, it's like this person is tied, this person has an inexplicable connection not just to the killer, and then you have to think, is it or is it not because they are actually tied to them somehow, but also, you know, they have this, like, a vision. They're visionary.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, why? And does it matter? So yeah, it's the same thing as Laura Mars. Like, Laura Mars is visionary, and, you know, you spend the whole movie trying to figure out, like, is she tied to the killer? Is she the killer? You know, and I actually thought the same thing when I was watching this. I was like, is Anne actually the killer? Because I feel like they do sort of push you in that direction a few times near the beginning, but then, of course, the more you progress into the movie, the less relevant it is, the identity of the killer, and, you know, it becomes more of like a Freudian psychoanalytical smorgasbord. If that makes sense.
The dream sequences and really just the whole movie, I cannot push, we've already said it like 8 times, but the color grading is, these guys went into my head and were like, what does Rowan like the most in the world? Let's use those color grades.
Yeah.
And the coloring is so awesome, like, throughout it. Even like some of the lighter, like the really white and like the black and white dream stuff, like everything is just contrast.
Oh yeah, and the sequences, like memory sequences, I guess, of the flashbacks of what happened when you know, nobody that is part of our narrative has witnessed it, are shot in that, like, the negative. It's like done in negative, which is so cool, and it's such a bizarre but amazing stylistic choice to set it off, right?
I think it's a great choice because you can, if you really look hard, you can see what's going on, but you have to look hard. Like, it makes it makes it not easy to see.
Exactly. Like, they film it and it's presented like the image is there, but it's but by flipping it into the negative, it obscures the way you're seeing it, but you're not actually seeing it.
Right. Yeah.
Which I feel is like one of the motifs
like,
of the movie. Exactly. Like, she's seeing it, but she can't quite grasp it.
Yeah.
Like, she's having these visions, but what do they mean? Who is it? And it's the same thing. Like, it's there. You're grasping at it, but it's just always out of reach. Like, you can see it, but you don't know what it is that you're seeing.
Yeah, it's really hard to, like, define what it is. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I feel like we need to talk about M83 for a little bit here.
Oh, I mean, yes. How can we not? It's such... Everybody knows we're obsessed with the music. In all movies. And just in general. Because we love music. We love movies, we love music. This is just the way it is.
I have it written that it would be great meditation music.
You could definitely pick some tracks out of it and, like, make a nice playlist. Because there's a couple in there that are a lot more, like, disco-y...
Yeah.
And aggressive, like the one at the beginning in the club, Thrash Me, which is one of my favorites. That's a very aggressive, like, propulsive song, but it's so, like, key to this movie, I feel like it's so intertwined. Everything about this movie is intertwined, like the performances and the lighting and the music, like everything is just, like, I know that's every movie. Obviously there's an alchemy of, like, twisting all these things together, but I feel like he went out of his way more so to make it more important, I guess, because the person doing the music was his brother and they were obviously close collaborators.
Definitely.
But I've always I've been listening to M83 as long as they've existed. And I mean, I say it's a band, but it's really like one guy with a rotating... Yeah. It's kind of like 9 Inch Nails. It's like one main guy who has a kind of rotating stable of people that he works with. The music is always, like I've always said, it's cinematic, it's widescreen, it's expansive. It feels like you're watching a movie when you're just sitting there with your headphones on in bed. So I always thought it was weird that he did not like score movies, you know?
When I after I was done watching this, I was like, because I really liked the music, so I saw that it was M83 that did it, and I was like, look them up on Spotify, and I was like, wait, because like their most popular songs, Midnight City,
of course, yeah.
And I was like, I've definitely heard that song before. Yeah.
One of the most iconic, key, like, recognizable saxophone solos in, like, 30 years.
Yeah.
And see, I know M83 from the name. I'm not familiar with the music. See, although I looked and, like, I do have an M83 remix on, like, my personal playlist, which is to, I can't think of what song it is. It's to a Block Party song.
Yeah.
Because, so where I learned about M83 was he did music for the Kill Your Darling soundtrack. And that's where I had first ever heard of him, because he did, like, them, I guess.
More queer cinema.
And they did, like, a lot of music for that. And I loved the music in that film. But that's all I was familiar with. And this definitely made me, like, go listen to some more. And in terms of the film, yeah, like, I think it was like the perfect musical fit. And like you said, probably has to do with, you know, them being brothers and probably knowing what each other wants artistically portrayed.
Well, realistically, they probably how do I say this? They probably worked together to mesh the two together from the beginning.
Yeah.
Rather than like doing a movie and then
because you're not filming a movie and then recruiting an outsider to come in and score it. Like, you're saying to somebody that you know intimately, I want you to do the music for this movie. So even while he's writing it and directing it, he can know, like, and again, because M83's music is so fucking cinematic anyway, it meshes no matter what. But like, I just feel like you can then create this thing and hear, your partner in scorings sound like their brand, their genre, the aesthetic of it while you're filming. And I feel like that relationship is actually, it's very unique.
Yeah.
Right? Like the way that they mesh together, and I just feel like there's not a whole lot of that in cinema, period. Like, I know that there are people, like directors, who work with the same composers and stuff over and over, but I feel like this was like lightning in a bottle. Like, having this person that you're like actually related to and have worked with before is really just sort of a once in a lifetime collaboration, I think. And I hope they do more together, because it was so devastatingly intertwined that like I can't think of the movie without this music. I feel like it would not be nearly as effective, even though it was a brilliant movie. I just feel like it's just the DNA, it's the visuals and the music tied together that you can't divorce them.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
I was just wondering who everybody's favorite, if you had a favorite character, because we've been recording for over an hour now, and somehow I haven't brought up my favorite character.
Who is your favorite character?
Arahi. Well, Archibald or Archie, but they pronounce it like Arahi.
What one was he?
Like the right-hand man of Anne. Like
the bleached blonde, wonderful, absolutely amazing.
Just like iconic.
Yeah.
The entire time I was watching it, until we got more into the story, I really thought he was gonna be the killer.
The killer, yeah.
Just because, like, every time she got drunk and dreamt about these murders, I'm like, she's always with him, so maybe, like, she goes to sleep.
She wakes up in his apartment and they're calling for her.
Yeah, and I was like, he must be like sneaking out.
I also loved the fluffer.
Oh my god, what a wonderful character. Can we just talk
the mouth? Is that what they called?
Yeah. The golden mouth, was it? I believe they called him the golden. Yeah, it's
the golden mouth.
What a bizarrely beautiful character. Again, the likes of which you would not see in any other horror movie.
No.
Right? Like,
it's this like middle-aged big guy, but he like seems so kind.
Yes, and clearly everybody loves him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they all absolutely adore him.
It's very, like, I feel unconventional for like what his role was.
Yeah, and like, remember when she's talking to him, he says like, Carl always talked to me about everything. He told me everything. So, like, at first you think
they were like,
he's like, I thought at first, it made me think of Philip Seymour Hoffman in Boogie Nights back in the day. And, this, like, maybe he was going to be this, like, pathetic character on the margins, but, like, they totally, again, twisted it and broke the mold, and, like, no, he's actually this character that is beloved by all these, like, young, hot studs, and everybody involved in the movie loves him, and they go out in the woods and have their picnic, and, like, he's there with them.
And he's just, like, laying there.
Yeah, and it's just so beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful.
I loved him.
He was number 2 on my suspect list as the movie went on.
That's fair.
But again, for that very reason, because you're thinking of, like, the stereotypical, like, oh, he's a bigger guy, and he's on the margins, and he's not the star, so he's gonna be, you know what I mean? And it's,
well, and I thought everyone
flips
liked
that
him.
Over.
Yeah, and I thought, like, everyone likes him a lot, and, like, that'll be the
that's the red herring. Yeah, it's like, throw them off the scent by having everybody like him.
Who is your favorite character?
So mine was, as you would say, Simone. I don't know about you guys, and I think it's just, like, how amazing, Simone dresses, but I was, like, getting heavy Hedwig vibes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the blonde hair, like, 100%, I feel.
Makeup.
And the makeup. I really liked Simone. I thought Simone was rocking. I was like, if I was a gay man, that would be my partner. Someone fashionable like that.
Of course.
I guess I'll interject quickly here, like, and I really like Simon in
that short.
In the short that he did, which was, I'm pretty sure, the same character. They're titled, like, I think they're titled the same.
Well, Simon played, the character was Dominique in this.
Oh, yeah,
Simon
Dominique
is the actor's name.
Yeah.
But I think that's her name in that short. It is, yeah. It is.
Yeah, but that was my favorite character. I just kind of liked he had like the kick-ass attitude too. She had kick-ass attitude as well. Did you tell us yours yet, Mike? No.
Well, I mean, sort of. I agreed with X. I have such a soft spot for Archie. Like, I just thought, what a great character, like, just so wonderful and, like, vibrant and full of personality and life. And again, you know, there were a few times when I was like, is he the killer? But then I was like, do I care? You know? I was like, I don't. But, like, honestly, I also just loved Lois so much. I thought she was such an icon. Like, her fashion was amazing. She was very forthright, brutally honest all the time with Anne. And, you know, obviously I really appreciated her, like, Anne's, you know, spending the whole movie, like, you know, pining for her and trying to win her back and just trying to get her sympathy and stuff. And Lois was like, nope, I'm putting my boundaries down, and this is my boundaries, and I love you, and I just thought, like, this is such an amazing woman. Like, I love, obviously, you know me, I love amazing women in movies and life and everything, but, like, you know, I was just like, but she was so stylish, too, you know? Like, she was always, like, there's moments in that where I'm just, like, screenshotting everything, because, you know, what she's wearing is amazing, and she's, like, such a serve, and, you know, she's, like, dancing, and she's in the club, and she looks amazing, but also she's like, listen, I have my boundaries, I've moved on, but also is very vulnerable at the same time. You know, she does, like, sort of, you know, like, almost sort of fall back in that, and, you know, when she gets stabbed, it's just, to me, it was, like, gut-wrenching. And I feel like that's, for a movie that's so stylized as this, and, like, giallos are like that, you know, the characters are often very flat because they're very stylized, but I found that even though they were paying homage to that type of movie making, that she was so vibrant that it transcended that flatness and stylization, and so therefore when she gets hurt, it hurts us.
Yeah, that's
right? So, and I feel like that really gives this movie, you know, womp womp heart. I feel like she's her, and that's why I loved her and Archie. I feel like the two of them are the heart of this movie, and they really give it like a pulse.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I need to, I guess, add a bracket or 1A, 1B. So I kind of have to change my answer. Dominique is amazing. She's awesome. But probably my favorite character is 70s porn mustaches going on in this. We had a lot of serious mustaches that really took front and center in this film.
They were not fucking around with the facial hair in this movie.
It was some of the most serious facial hair I've seen. I've been kind of curious, like, maybe instead of my big burly beard, Exilia would like me to shave one of these mustaches.
Yeah. No thanks.
To quote...
It's your body, you do whatever you want.
No thanks, she says, but, you know, agency. To quote the great Monique, I would love to see it. That's all I'm saying.
I just want to ask your guys' opinions about the sounds and faces that the killer makes when they're killing people. Because they're making some interesting faces and they're making some interesting sounds, and I can't tell if they're crying or what.
I thought they were like a mix of crying,
it was like whimpering,
and, like whimper and pleasure, but more whimpering. Because I mean, I would assume like he's thinking of his lover when he's murdering these people, so it's probably not necessarily a happy moment for him.
I feel like that's actually a very, very, very good question, because, and I do feel like it's very ambiguous, and that's why you're asking the question, because I feel like for a huge chunk of the movie, you're still supposed to be like in the dark about who it is or what their motivation is. You're just unfortunately, like, bearing witness to these horrific murders, and you don't know why. And I feel like the weird noises, you're trying to figure out, again, yeah, is it a whimper? Is it pleasure? Is it anger? Is it a mixture of both? You know, is it this? Is it that? And I feel like that is tied up. I feel like the sounds, again, similar to the music, are integral to it because the muddiness and ambivalence of what sounds is this person making are keeping you on your toes and, like, about the motivation of why they're killing. Like, are they getting off on this? Are they angry at it? Or, you know, is it some kind of revenge thing? Like, and I feel like the fact that you can't tell is the strength of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, same. To me, it seemed more like upset than they're in pleasure.
Yeah. Even though and that's, again, because it's like this sexual killing, but it's like, they're not getting off on it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I just briefly wanted to bring up the Lael short, because me and Exili watched it, and I had seen it before Exili had seen it. I said, oh, you should watch this, because I think that Young Gonzalez pulled, like, a lot of ideas out of the short into this film.
But not in a, like...
Not like a direct pull.
On, like, a very surface level, like, superficial way. Like, there's someone who is, like, burned.
There's, like, a slasher that's, like, burned with a lot more intricate makeup than in this film.
And, like, but he doesn't actually kill anybody. And there's, like, maybe, like, a bisexual couple that's, like, heterosexual presenting. And there's an audience. Like, they're performing for an audience, although you don't realize at the beginning.
It gave me heavy David Lynch vibes. Think kind of like Rabbits, or like that kind of vibe.
No, you're right, though, with the David Lynch, because that feeds into what we were talking about earlier. David Lynch is all about surrealism and dreams bleeding into reality, and looking at your dreams as explaining what's happening in real life, right? And isn't there a point during this movie, I think I might have written it down, hang on, I just feel like there's a point in this movie where one of the characters, and I wish I had made a direct note about it, says, like, look to your dreams, like your dreams are telling you things.
I don't remember.
I mean, listen, I could be wrong. I feel like that's something that David Lynch has in common. And David Lynch stuff is very Freudian. It's very psychoanalytical. And it's very much like dreams within movies within dreams, which is clearly, you know, a common element with this.
Yeah.
So I just think that's an interesting comparison.
And, like, yeah, this short just took elements of... Or, like, basically the movie took elements of the short, I feel.
At the end of the day, I just highly suggest people go track it down, find it. I really like the short. The short's interesting.
I actually quite liked the movie more. The short wasn't terrible. I'm not saying that. I just liked the movie more.
So let's talk about, is it unsettling? Did we find this film unsettling? I'll quickly start. I wouldn't say I found it unsettling necessarily at all. It gave me everything I wanted. It's not, like, scary and anything like that. I think the only thing that could be kind of unsettling is just kind of the disorientation of how kind of magical realism it is, and just how bizarre things kind of get, and the blurred lines of reality and dreams, and you might find that unsettling, but I think overall it isn't very unsettling. How about you, Mike?
I mean, in a sort of plain-speaking way, no, but there's elements of it. Of course, the sexual violence that's a core of this movie is, I mean, sexual violence is always, like, unsettling and upsetting, even if it's hyper-stylized like this and over the top. And the motivation of essentially, like, avenging horrific acts of, like, homophobia is also unsettling, obviously, because that's the motivation, right? Like, it's this person was almost murdered as a result of, you know, their homophobic family.
And I agree. That's what I was going to say, Mike, too. only were they almost murdered, but they've like internalized that homophobia and are now targeting other queer men.
Yeah, it's not lashing out at the person who perpetrated the attack, or even simulacrums of the person that did the attack. Right. It's turning it back on yourself and then going after the people that are like you, exactly, instead of the people who, it's like, again, like you said, it's internalizing it. It's inverting it. Instead of turning it outwards, you're turning it inwards.
And I feel like perhaps if you're in that situation and you know that, like, of the actors, and you know that you're being targeted and other people in the cast have been murdered, maybe that's scary for you. That might be scary.
And I think I think too, when you talk about like the sexual violence, I will say like, and sexually assaulting her ex-partner, I thought was very, like, I was pretty disturbed at that whole incident and scene. I thought it was pretty hard to watch. No one likes to see that.
Well, yes, and I mean that's sort of that's why for a while I was thinking that, like, maybe they're subtly pointing to her as actually being the killer, because they really went out of their way to not make her particularly likable.
Yeah.
Which is a brave choice for, not only the lead actor in a movie, but like, and she's, again, legendary, iconic. They're really taking this person who's a Chanel model, very famous singer, etc. And they're like, nope, we're going to put you in here and you're not going to be this like lily white character. You're going to be getting down in the fucking dark and dirty shit. Like,
so are you guys comfortable to go into rating it?
Of course.
Yep.
All right. So, if this is your first time listening, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. And we will start with you, Exilia.
So I'm gonna give it a slay.
Oh, Mike is celebrating right now on camera. It's been a long time since we've gotten a slay, I think.
I miss X's slays.
I only save them for the best.
Yeah, true.
Love the music, love the coloring, love the cinematography. Thought it was a really, like I said before, provocative movie. Loved the characters, loved the diversity of the cast. Mm-hmm. Loved that it wasn't a straight white man that's like the central point of the story. I really enjoyed it.
How about yourself, Mike?
I will gladly and with so much love agree with X and say slay. Like, this, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And I know that's not always the sole judge of like, is a movie like really good and a slay or not. But again, I had high hopes for this movie, so I firmly thought that when I sat down to actually watch it, that I was probably going to be a bit let down, and I was going to be okay with that, but I wasn't let down. That's how good it was. I just, again, thought the visuals were, they keep saying in like the trailers and stuff, like the visionary director. He is visionary. It's a beautiful movie. Every element of it works perfectly together, and I feel like it rewards multiple watches, and I can't wait to, I will be getting the Blu-ray, and I'm definitely going to be inviting some friends over to watch it and talk about it, and I just feel like this is one of those that it's gonna age like a fine wine. And
you have to watch it multiple times.
Yeah. Revisit it 5 years down the road, and you'll probably see like a whole new layers to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think because of the nature of it, I think even just as society progresses and culture progresses, it's gonna bring like new elements to the story, or like new dimensions to the story.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's like the most queer horror movie I have seen in a very long time, if period. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if the director is like straight or what, and I don't care. Sometimes you say, obviously, a straight person writing, something that's queer and that's problematic, but honestly, in this case, again, like we said, there's so many twists to it that buck against the trend of everything. Every element of this could have been pedestrian in some way, but like, he twists it so that it's something that is transgressive and rubs against the grain, and I think that's brilliant. Ro, what do you have to say?
So I'm gonna give it a yay. I know.
I didn't even think you were gonna give it a yay.
No?
Because you're like, oh, this is like a like me situation. That's what you said to me. And I said, save it for the podcast.
So, okay. I'm going to give it a conditional yay. I was between a yay.
Conditional yay, okay.
No, because I was between a yay and a slay. So, this is the problem is I really, really liked it. I've been thinking about it since I watched it. I love the coloring. I love the soundtrack. But I don't know. There was just, when I was done watching it, there was something that I was like, it just wasn't everything that I thought. And I think we've gone over this before. Maybe it's the unreal expectation. I remember seeing the trailer. I remember them being like, Yan Gonzalez is the new Argento and all that thing, and there was a lot of Argento vibes. I feel like his next movie's gonna be a slay for me. I am very interested in what Yan Gonzalez is gonna do next. And that, I guess that's my thing. Like, I can't even put my finger on, so I don't know, maybe I give it a slay. I feel like there was something that I can't give it a slay, and I don't know what it is.
This is gonna be the next Mandy.
And this is my issue. I feel like this is gonna be next Mandy, and I'm gonna. So you know what? Just give it a slay, because I also thought when I was done watching it that I'm probably gonna need to sit with this like 3 or 4 more times. So I also think that maybe the more I watch it, it's gonna be a Mandy situation. So switch it, I'm giving it a slay. I like...
You heard it here, folks. Real-time rating switch.
He went from it's like me to a slay.
To a slay.
Which is like going from 0 to 60.
It wasn't like... I mean, Like Me was terrible. My only comparison to them were they were both movies that the trailer promised me a mix of Kubrick and Argento, and
stop watching the trailer.
I gotta stop.
Yeah,
like
the trailer is your problem.
I think the trailer is my problem. I will give it a slay. There wasn't anything I didn't like about this movie, and I want to watch the movie multiple times. So I don't know. I guess just thinking like that, why would it be anything less than a slay?
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to watch it if it wasn't. So there you go, 3 slays. Seal it up.
The coveted triple slay.
I was gonna say it's the seldom achieved fantasy triple slay.
So next up is the budget game. I know how much the movie cost to make and how much it made, and Exilia and Mike guess until the death, and the loser will get stabbed with a dildo knife. Or just a dildo.
Where are we gonna get stabbed anyway?
So we will start with what it cost. Your guess can be in euros or Canadian, because I converted it. So
I'm gonna have no idea.
Just let me know what you think. We'll start with you, Mike.
Okay, I'll say $25 million, because I feel like even though there's a legend attached, that she also is not like, oh, just pay me like everything. I feel like this was a visionary project and she wanted to be a part of it. And also another huge element of it is the music, and it's his brother. So I feel like that would limit the budget. And I just feel like he's really smart as a director and probably like didn't need $1 bajillion. So yeah, that's what I'll say.
25 million?
Yeah.
Okay, how about yourself, Exilia?
17 million.
17 million.
$1, Bob.
I mean, I should say both of you are incorrect, but Exilia is the closest. So the movie cost 3.4 million euros.
Oh my god. Okay,
so that is only 5 million Canadian.
Jesus,
about.
okay, I was
excellent.
Wow, okay. Well, I mean, my point still stands. I got the numbers wrong, but my point stands.
You're still a
He was
loser
doing a
this
lot
game.
with a little, I'm always a loser, girl. I'm always a loser. The Losers Club.
Now
5 million well spent.
Yeah.
How much did it make? Exilia, we'll start with you this time.
Oh god. I don't know, because like it's a French film and I have no concept of if it was like popular there or...
So you're saying on record you don't think the French can compete in film?
No, I'm just saying, I don't know if it was like in the theaters or whatever. How
about this? I'm going to give you guys a hint.
Okay.
I'm going to suspect it was a very limited release.
Okay, so 500,000.
500,000. How about you, Mike?
I'll say 3.5 million, Bob.
All right, so Exilia will take it again.
Woo!
Fuck you.
It made $341,000.
So they lost a lot of money.
I think everything we talked about.
They did it for the art. They didn't do it for the money.
I think he'll make it on the back end over years. I think this is going to gain more and more steam.
Yeah.
The
Once
fact that it got put out on
accessible,
Shudder, yeah, like so soon after its release as a foreign film, to me speaks volumes of like the kind of hunger for this film that audiences have like outside of France. So,
and this film is on, you know, I always look up almost every year like kind of the top LGBTQ films of not just the year but, you know, all time, and this is like on all the lists.
I mean, I can't understand how it wouldn't be.
Yeah, and it has a lot of like posts on Tumblr and stuff, so, which I know sounds stupid, but it's like, that to me always like speaks of something's like cult appeal, is when people start like jiffing it and doing like image sets on like Tumblr and like Twitter and stuff, and people are really appreciating the aesthetic of it. So I think that speaks volumes about its longevity, because it's the type of movie that's gonna get passed around, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can't wait to have people over. I want to pass it around, so to speak.
I 100% agree with that. So, lastly, we have to pick the next film. And it is my pick, so we know what that means. It's a double feature. And just hold on a second, guys. Do you hear that sound? I think that's the sound of a bus. It's rounding the kids up because it's getting hot, it's getting summertime, and I'm sending my kids to camp. And there's only one camp I send my kids to, Crystal Lake Camp.
Oh my god.
So, we are going to be doing Friday the 13th, Part 1 and Part 2. And guess what, guys? I think Part 1's always spoiled for Exilia, because she's tired of people spoiling the ending for her.
If I hear one more time that Jason isn't in the first movie, I'm gonna cry.
Spoiler alert. But yes. So,
mostly because Rowan is like, you know, Jason's not in the first movie, right? Which is fine one time.
Also, you know, that's like the main thrust of the opening scene of Scream.
But I have to be reminded several times.
But yeah, so it's been a while, guys. It's been a long time, and we have not talked about, we haven't dug our feet in this classic franchise. So we're going to talk about Part 1 and Part 2. Yeah, hopefully we won't get too bad of sunburns as we're tanning on the lake of Camp Crystal.
I'll look like a lobster.
Yeah, and I'll just look like a farmer.
Yeah.
With my farmer's tan. But I think that is everything. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for tuning in. And
also, shout out to our listeners in France.
That's right. Shout out to your listeners, our listeners in France. And, you know, any of you guys feel free to hit us up with some suggestions on other French horror movies.
Yeah, please disregard Rose horrible mangling of your language.
I mean, I mangle the English language.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, if you've listened to us before, you know that he can't pronounce any word, let alone a French word.
The Shea Brigade, how I missed you. But I think that is everything for now. As always, I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Exilia.
See ya, it's Mike.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
From the prime time, bitch!
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotape.